Hello, Horror Nights and family, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, your home for scary movie reviews and horror movie related topic videos every single Wednesday and Saturday. It is so very nice out today, and you look so nice today. Thank you so much for joining me. And it must be Wednesday, which means we're gonna be talking about some horror movies. So let's do it. I'm really into doing these older, iconic horror movies lately. I love delving into the new horror of our time, but I don't know, I'm really liking revisiting these older films like Hostel and now The Ring. Also, thank you so much if you voted in my most recent poll, and if you want to vote in the next one, be sure to subscribe to this channel and my polls will automatically show up in your feed. And for your convenience, there are timestamps below if you want to skip around a little bit, because in this video, I'm going to be doing an in-depth review on the film, then my opinion on the film, the characters, and the kills. Okay, so The Ring was released in 2002, and it follows a journalist who must investigate the mysterious videotape, which seems to cause the death of anyone who's watched it 1 week after the day that they view it. Okay, we cannot forget to mention the 1998 Japanese horror film Ring You that The Ring is based on. And also, let's not forget the book Ring, which was written by Koji Suzuka in 1991, where all of these films are taken from. And all of these stories have one central idea: a cursed as videotape. I remember the first time I saw The Ring back in the early 2000s, and oof, I was traumatized by a fuzzy TV screen and wells for a very long time. Warning, this video contains lots and lots of spoilers, so proceed with caution. Okay, let's get started. The film begins and we're introduced to two teenage girls who are chatting about how bad technology is for your brain. But then they get on the subject of the cursed videotape. And we get a little backstory on the tape. And apparently, if you watch it, your phone rings and tells you you're gonna die in 7 days. Then we get the story from one of the girls who says she watched it a week ago. And then the phone rings. But it's just her mom, but then the TV flickers in the living room and it's just static. She turns it off, but then uh-oh, it turns right back on to the same static TV screen. She then decides to unplug it, but then we see a ghostly figure behind her. And things start to get spookier as she makes her way upstairs and sees water on the floor leading into her bedroom. She opens the door and then we get this fun scene. Now we are introduced to Rachel and Aiden, and it seems the girl in the beginning was Aiden's cousin, and he was very close with her. We also find out that Aiden is a little weirdo and likes to draw his dead cousin a week before she actually died. The two are now on their way home, and Rachel seems a little concerned with her son, especially after they had a conversation about death. You know, normal things to talk about with your child. It's now the next day and the two are getting ready for Katie's funeral. And Aiden is definitely the parent in this relationship. He also calls her Rachel and not mom. So we find out that the apparent cause of death for Katie was a stroke. But her grieving parents are still not sure why their daughter actually died. And then we get this nightmare of a scene of Katie's face. We also learn that Rachel is an investigative journalist and that the girl we saw with Katie, her friend, is now in a mental institution. Then we meet another one of Katie's friends and it's Adam Brody. I forgot he was even in this film. And we learn that Katie watched this tape with her boyfriend, who is also dead. Dun dun dun. And Aiden is just continuing to be the little weirdo as he wanders up to Katie's bedroom. And we see the same ghostly thing behind him. Rachel's now looking through Katie's things, and we see that the faces are all scratched out. And also a receipt to pick up photos. You guys remember that? When you had to bring your disposable cameras to a store to get them developed? Ugh, we are old. Rachel's now looking through the photos from the disposable camera. They all seem normal, just kids being kids, but then in the last photo, their faces are all warped looking. Rachel then starts digging through some newspapers, and we learn that all the kids in the pictures died on the same night at the same time. She's now on the way to the inn that the kids stayed at the night they watched the tape. Rachel then spots what is most likely the cursed tape and decides to steal it, but not before booking a night at the cabin in the woods. She then hits play and is greeted with the tape. You guys know the footage. Roll the clip. Nah. After she watches it, the phone rings and we hear the ghostly whisper of 7 days. It's now Thursday and she is back home holding the stolen videotape. And then we meet Noah like really awkwardly in the street. Noah is now with Rachel and he takes her picture and we can see that her face is also warped. But he's not really convinced that a videotape can kill people, so he watches it. Then the phone rings, but no one picks it up. She then asks Noah for his help, figuring out where the tape came from because Noah works with like tapes and videos. He then leaves and we see that there is a message blinking on the machine, but Rachel deletes it. She is now making a copy of the tape for Noah, and we can see that the numbers are all scrambled and weird. It's Friday now, day 2. And Noah is looking at the copy of the tape that Rachel made and is explaining that when you record something, it should tell you where it was made. But this particular tape and the copy does not. They do some digging into the tape and it looks like there's like more footage that wasn't visible. Then we get a little bit of a tension between the two and we gotta assume the two have some history. Rachel then leaves and walks under a ladder. Bad luck. And of course, it looks like the ladder from the tape. She is now at the mental institution where Katie's friend is and asking her about the night that Katie died. And somehow this girl is like all knowing and tells Rachel that she will have all of her answers in 4 days. Rachel is now back at work and she's using a much fancier machine to figure out what the footage is that they couldn't see. And she sees that it is a lighthouse. Then we get that really nasty fly scene, you know the one, and then her nose starts to bleed. She is now at the library trying to find the lighthouse that she saw in the video frame. Oh, and it's Sunday, day 4. And after just a few page turns, she finds the lighthouse that she's looking for. She is now doing her due diligence and finds a lady in the tape in one of the photos on the internet. Her name is Anna Morgan, and she was really into horses. Also, who is watching Aiden? As Rachel's continuing to do her research, we learn that Anna's horses were plagued with some strange occurrences like drowning themselves. Oh, and we find out that Anna died from apparently suicide. It is now Monday, day 5, and Noah is at a convenience store, and when he looks up into the security cam footage, his face is warped. Spooky. Rachel is now home and we see that Aiden at least has a babysitter. Rachel says goodnight to a sleeping Aiden and then goes to get some water. And then we get that really nasty lawyer scene that just makes me want to vomit. And then we get this really gnarly scene with the ghost girl in a puddle of water in the chair. Rachel then wakes up and she sees that the handprint is still on her arm. Oh, and of course Aiden watched the cursed videotape, because of course he does. Then the phone rings. She picks it up, then puts it back down, then it rings again. But it's Noah, this time saying he believes her. Oh, and of course we find out that Aiden is actually the love child between Rachel and Noah. It's now Tuesday, day 6. And we get an awkward conversation between father and son, and Rachel is back looking at Katie's things, and she's dropping off Aiden. So now we see that Rachel and Noah are venturing up to the scene of the crime, trying to figure out what happened to Anna Morgan. We also find out that Anna had a daughter. So while on the ferry to the island where the lighthouse is located, Rachel decides to pet a horse. But then we get the scene that I hate with the horse. Yeah, you know the one. I don't want to show it. I don't like it. So now we're with Noah and we get a little breaking and entering because he's looking for the files on Anna Morgan and why she was put into the mental institution 24 years ago. Rachel then arrives at the home of the Morgans and we meet Richard Morgan. And we start to see things throughout the farm and the house that connects to the videotape. And we learn that Richard Morgan knows about the videotape. And he is very perturbed when he finds out that Rachel also knows about it. She then asks him about his daughter and he says he doesn't have one and warns her to leave it alone and slams the door in her face. And we can see that the tape is also messing with Aiden because he drew a picture for Rachel. And when Rachel takes out the picture, it's the farmhouse. So now we're back with Noah and he finds her file and it looks like Anna had a hard time conceiving a child. Rachel's now calling Aiden and asks him why he drew the picture of that farmhouse. And he tells her it's because the little girl told him to, and how the little girl doesn't like it in the barn because the horses keep her up at night, and how the little girl lives in a dark place now. Rachel's now meeting with the doctor on the island and is asking her about the Morgans and their daughter. We learn that Anna wanted a child for a long time, and one winter they went away and then they came back with Samara and she was adopted. But after that, Anna came to the doctor complaining of seeing things and blamed Samara for doing it. So the doctor sent the two of them away to the mainland, to the psych ward, and things got better on the island. So now we're back with Noah, and Noah is in the videotape section of the hospital and is looking for the tape that was mentioned in Anna's file. But it's missing, and the last person to take it out was Richard Morgan. He is now on the ferry trying to find Rachel, and she is back at the farmhouse. And the door is open, so she goes inside. And she finds a box of things and the videotape that is missing from the psychiatric hospital. It's footage of Samara in the ward, and we learn that Samara never sleeps and has something inside of her that hurts other people. We then see the silhouette of Richard behind her, and he hits her in the head and takes the TV upstairs. Rachel then accuses him of killing his daughter, and he tells her that his wife was not supposed to have a child. And Richard can't take it anymore, so he decides to kill himself. Noah is then there to the rescue, and the two of them venture into the barn. Shouldn't they maybe call the cops, considering there is a guy dead in a bathtub in the house? Inside the barn, they see that this is where Samara was kept because her mother was going crazy. So Richard kept her in there alone. We then see that there is a TV in the room, and Noah spots something burned into the wood under the wallpaper, and it's a tree. It is now Wednesday, day 7, and Rachel recognized the tree in the wood as the tree from the inn where she originally found the tape. They're also back in the same cabin, and Rachel has pretty much given up at this point because she realizes that it's too late. But then Noah starts to knock some stuff over, and they notice that something is under the rug. And then they start hacking into the floor. Guys, I don't think the innkeepers are really into this whole reconstruction thing that you're doing, but under the floorboards is the well. And as the two are trying to figure out how to get down there, the TV flickers on, and we see water start pouring into the room, causing all of the nails to come up, which causes the TV to fly off the ledge and push Rachel into the well. She's alright though, she's just in some really nasty water with her flashlight. And she sees that someone tried to claw their way out. Then we see the lid of the well cover as Noah is trying to find something to get Rachel out. Now I have to be honest with you guys, every time I watch this movie, this scene always makes me laugh. But then we see a hand come out of the water, and we get transported back to a memory. Samara is singing in front of the well, and her mother is behind her. And then she casually puts a bag over her head and then pushes Samara into the well. Brutal. And then we realize the last thing that Samara saw before she died was the ring of light from the cover of the well. Then her body floats up, and Rachel watches as the ghost turns into a skeleton, and she lets it float back down. Rachel is then rescued, and we learn that they are going to bury the body of Samara next week. Rachel is still a little traumatized from what she saw, and is still unsure of why the mother did that to her daughter. And she does say this line where she thinks that sometimes children just need to be heard. And we also make the connection that it took Samara 7 days to die in the well, hence the 7 days that everyone hears on the telephone after they finish the video. Also, why is Aiden's family letting him sleep on the floor like that? Anyways, everybody gets home, and it's now the next day, and Rachel tells Aiden about Samara and how she is free now. But then Aiden, being the really smart one, tells Rachel that she is stupid for helping Samara. And then poor Noah. So it looks like Rachel was trying to be a good stepmom to the ghost girl, and it all just kind of backfired. We do get this epic scene that plays in our minds when we think of the ring though. I love this scene so much. Just for Samara getting all the revenge and being a demon child. Rachel then comes home, yells at Aiden for no reason, and destroys the tape and questions why not her and Aiden. It is because she made a copy. She then has Aiden make a copy, and he asks her what happens to the person who watches the film next. And the film ends. All right, guys, opinion time. Okay, I have seen this film many times. And yes, I do like it. And yes, I do think that when newer audiences watch this, they will get scared. But just like with any other film, there are some flaws. But it did keep building and building and building. And just when you think it's over, it's actually not. Because Rachel made a copy. And of course, the end of the film set it up for a sequel. Okay, so here is just some of my problems with this film. Now keep in mind, we are just criticizing The Ring alone. We're not talking about Ring 2. So these were the questions that I had many years ago when I first watched it. Like, how did Samara manufacture this videotape after she was pushed into the well? And how did it just find its way onto the shelf of the inn? Also, in this film, we never really learned how Aiden can magically talk to Samara and how she doesn't really talk to anybody else except for to tell them 7 days. And also, I just wanted her powers to be more explained. We know that she can project images into other people's minds, and we know that she did have a TV in her room. But I think for this film, I wanted a little bit more about how she could do the things that she did. I also wanted to know more about how the Morgans came to have Samara. In the deleted scene, it says that the mom came back pregnant, but in the movie, you see the live birth certificate. Now, as I said, guys, I know that there's a sequel, but we're just focusing on this film for now. Let me know in the comments down below if you want me to cover the second one as well. So the atmosphere of this film is just perfect. It's super haunting. I love the grays and the rain. It's just perfect for a horror movie setting. And we don't have a ton of music in here except for the very cryptic piano notes and that high-pitched ringing from the tape itself. The imagery and the pacing was also done really well, and I liked that it was a mystery, and we were following along on the journey of Rachel and Noah. Speaking of Rachel and Noah, let's talk about the characters. It was a small cast, which I appreciate, especially with these reviews, because sometimes, yes, even I get confused. I think Naomi Watts did a great job of balancing the super badass investigative reporter, but also being genuinely scared about the things that she was finding out. Noah was nice to look at, and he helped move the story along. We also got his epic kill scene in the end, so thank you, Noah, for that. Aiden was also the best little weirdo that we could have asked for, and was able to talk to Samara and tell her that her mom was stupid. Also, does anybody know how Katie's friend's doing in the psych ward? Speaking of Katie, let's talk about the kills. Okay, so as far as kills go, we have a few. We have Katie, Richard, Samara, the group of friends, and then we also have Noah. You guys should already know my favorite kill is by now. I mean, how could it be anyone but Noah? I mean, look at this. In conclusion, this film is so fun, so dark, so scary, and so good. I know that I kind of talked a little bit about like the things that maybe didn't make sense when I first watched it, but overall this film is one of my favorites. I mean, I still look at the TV sometimes and envision Samara just like coming right out of it. Anybody else? Just me? Okay. Alright friends, that's gonna be it for me and this video. And if you like these kinds of videos, I have an entire playlist dedicated to horror movie reviews in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. You can follow me on my social medias if you want to, and I'll see you guys soon.